We're minutes away from dying.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you remember the details so well?
Because these memories are so vibrant, so vivid.
I could close my eyes as a child, and if I heard the boots of the Germans, I could tell you which German it was, somebody to be feared or somebody who's safe.
Do you remember your first real meal after liberation?
In Auschwitz, there was this terrible smell of burning bodies permeated everywhere. But then I began to smell another smell. And I said to myself, after the liberation, what is that? She said, that's the making of bread. I still remember that.
Their favorite dishes are featured in this new cookbook, Honey Cake and Latkes, Recipes from the Old World. Friedman and Genscher met while working on the book, published by the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial Foundation. It includes more than 100 Holocaust survivor stories paired with family recipes.
Truly the first time that I had ever really had this kind of an interaction with a Holocaust survivor. I had heard them speak, I had gone to exhibits, but I had never had a one-to-one conversation. And I'm going to say that I'm assuming most of you have. And I'm sure that you all know it's life-changing because the stories that they share and the perspective that they have is truly so unusual. We are flustered and flummoxed with the smallest little things in our lives. And you speak to a Holocaust survivor and you hear what they've endured and how they have turned tragedy into triumph. And you realize that pretty much anything is possible. And Regina was no exception to that rule. And she told me her story, and she told me about the people she lost, and she told me about the amazing people she found. And we got through it. And you could see that when the story was finished, a smile returned to her face, her hands unclenched. And I said, Regina, now's the easy part. Share with me your signature recipe. And let me say that I do the absolute worst Eastern European accent on the planet. So my apologies to those of you whose names I am looking at and undoubtedly have these beautiful Eastern European accents. Mine sounds like the Muppet, the Swedish chef Muppet. I don't know if you remember him, but that's my accent. I'm going to do it anyway. And Regina said to me, what's a signature recipe? And I said, Regina, it's the dish you make all the time for your friends and your family. And she says, well, Mamala, that would be Kluski.
And instead, what I discovered is that, on the contrary, I think it helped them to live. I think, even though the food was imaginary, because I think food nourishes not just the body, but the spirit.
Well, we couldn't imagine that most of our families will be killed. So you lived in somehow, maybe in a dream world, let's say, that you couldn't, that you really felt, well, all right, it will be over in a while.
Slices frequently grace Eva Moremi's table.
And my mother made it very nice. And it also has layers of walnuts and layers of a jam and then a chocolate on the top.
Just like how her mother Itza used to make it.
Her name is Ethel Jambor.
Reading off family recipe cards.
And she gave a recipe to my mom called Magdona.
But these cards aren't any old heirloom.
First she was in Auschwitz, where they only talked about food because they were starving and people were dying around them. And after a few weeks in Auschwitz, they were put on trains, she and her younger sister.
I really enjoy almost anything that was ever served me. But I would look forward to soup especially. And I'm thinking now in terms as a kid in school. And I often would ask my mother right after breakfast before I left for school, Mom, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? You know, that kind of thing. And I think about it.